Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Department of Family and Support Services Shelter Placement and Resource Center, also known as SPARC RFP webinar. Just a few housekeeping rules. Due to the volume of participants, everyone has been placed on mute. Please submit questions via the questions box and we'll respond to questions at the midpoint and end of the presentation. Please use the questions box to notify us of any technical issues. This webinar is being recorded. Anything stated at this webinar is not intended to change the solicitation document. Any changes will be in writing in the form of an addendum issued by the Department of Family and Support Services. The purpose of this webinar is to provide information for the solicitation. A copy of the recording will be posted on the DFSS YouTube channel with a link to the recording, and a PDF of the PowerPoint slides will be posted to the DFSS webpage at www.chicago.gov under the alerts and or funding opportunity tabs. Please give it up to 5 business days to upload. DFSS retains the right to share a list of registrants to this webinar along with their contact and organizational information at our discretion. At this time, I'm going to introduce the homeless division. Would you like to start?
Sure, I can start. Hi, everyone. Good morning. I'm Kimberly Howard. I'm a director with the Homeless Services Division here at the Department of Family and Support Services. And thanks for joining us today. And I will pass over to Fabiola.
Hey, good morning, everyone. My name is Fabiola Revisu, a project manager with the Homeless Services team. I will be your main contact for this RFP. And I'll pass it to Alejandra.
Alex, we can't hear you for some reason.
How about that? There we go. Sorry. My name is Alejandra Magaña. I'm also one of the directors here for Homeless Services. So thank you all for joining to learn more about this RFP.
Thanks, team. At this time, we're going to go through the purpose of the agenda, the background, information about the scope and program description, the selection criteria, timeline, technical assistance for applicants and e-procurement, and one last round for questions. So at this time, we're gonna pass it over to the homeless division to start with the purpose of the RFP.
Yeah. Thank you, Jillian. So the purpose of the RFP, we are seeking applications for an operator of a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week center known as the Shelter Placement and Resource Center, also known as SPARC. You'll hear us refer to it as SPARC or the SPARC. The SPARC will serve single adults experiencing homelessness and will provide shelter intake support, diversion services, homeless resource support, and an overflow sleeping area for clients waiting for shelter placement. We're looking for an agency with direct experience supporting individuals experiencing homelessness and a deep understanding of Chicago's crisis response and homeless service system to lead operations and management of the SPARC at a city designated site. The SPARC is intended to provide increased access to a safe, welcoming space to receive support with shelter requests and for waiting for shelter placement, as well as basic amenities and services that prioritize safe housing solutions. The SPARC is intended to be a reliable, safe, and 24-hour site for up to 250 to 300 single adults to be able to wait for coordinated transportation, for a shelter bed to be available, and and part of it is to help people avoid sleeping outside and in places not intended for a human habitation. So engagement will be key. Some clients will be individuals who might not otherwise seek services or have faced multiple barriers to maintaining stable housing. So to recap, you will be managing the daily operations, you will be meeting clients' immediate and basic needs while on site, and effectively coordinating with partners on diversion, shelter coordination, and other services. So a little background about the SPARC. As we know, the shelter access has always been a difficult process in Chicago, recognizing that the demand for shelter often outweighs the supplies of beds available at any given time. Demand for shelter has significantly increased since 2022, when Chicago welcomed thousands of newcomers to the city. And in 2025, the city of Chicago implemented the One System Initiative, also known as OSI, to streamline the shelter system to best serve all Chicagoans, so both long term residents and recent newcomers. OSI is the result of a collaborative effort by service providers, community partners, and people with lived experiences who worked on the recommendations to help standardize care across a single system. So we had all sorts of recommendations come in, and one that we're focusing on was to provide at least one low barrier access point that is available 24/7 year round for people seeking shelter. So the purpose, some of the intended outcomes of the recommendation was to improve the process to access shelter beds, to provide coordinated care while pursuing shelter, and to see a reduction in confusion over where and how to access shelter. So, since December of last year, we have been operating a temporary SPARC location at 2241 South Halsted. It serves about 200 single adults, and it's currently being operated by two state delegate agencies. A successful Spark will have the following effects on clients and the wider crisis response system. So, we'll be provide those seeking shelter by giving them a physical access point for shelter intake. Provide those seeking shelter by having a system front door that is person centered, maintains clear and consistent communication around the process, is welcoming and respectful, and where clients can receive updates about the status of their shelter requests. It's also intended to provide either a warming or cooling center in inclement weather, provide the centralized shelter intake, transportation, and crisis response, the CSIT-CR delegate, by assisting with the coordination of shelter placement, and create a space for the CSI delegate to efficiently connect and remain in contact with those individuals seeking shelter. The space is also intended to assist with shelter placements, whether with shelter providers, outreach, community partners, by giving them a central location, and to assist DFSS with providing up-to-date, reliable data regarding supply and demand in the shelter system, because that will impact our strategic funding and programming choices in the city. So some of the current priorities for improvement that the RFP is open to address, one being expanding equitable and efficient access to shelters for all requesters, resulting in increased placement rate. So essentially that means cutting down on not being able to reach requesters, especially when people are changing locations or have no personal phone, and to provide a safe, stable place where they can request and wait for shelter coordination and placement. Another priority for improvement is developing cultural and linguistically appropriate support. So, ensuring that staff can meet the language needs and have the cultural competency and trained awareness to support the clients that will be at Spark. So, also having that awareness that our experiences are shaped by various experiences and traumas like racism, political distress, mental health, and cultural adaptation. And another improvement is increasing connection of individuals to alternative opportunities outside the shelter system whenever possible. So, although one of the main purposes is shelter request, we also want to collaborate with people experiencing homelessness to find solutions such as mediation, transportation support, utility support, rental assistance that will enable them to remain housed so they can avoid entering the shelter system altogether. The target population for this RFP is any single individual living in Chicago who is requesting shelter, with a focus on those living unsheltered. So this includes those experiencing a housing crisis, those experiencing domestic violence, and survivors of fire or other disasters. In the RFP, we list a whole bunch of other subcategories: diverse cultural and ethnic populations, non or limited English speakers, people from the LGBTQ community. There's a whole bunch of other ones more than what's listed here, so please check that section out in the RFP. So program requirements. Respondents will need to propose space on a to be determined site with a consideration of outline in this RFP, and be willing to provide services in whichever location is ultimately selected. A respondent should submit a proposal with the facility details shared in the program requirements section of the RFP. We outline spaces and areas that should be expected to exist in the to be determined space. But essentially, there are also site operations, system activity, provision of client activities, and staffing requirements, among others. There's like 2 pages worth of all the different requirements. Respondents are encouraged to subcontract with the organizations to fulfill the program requirements of this RFP. So it's not required, but highly encouraged. The selected respondent may award additional subcontractors, and secondary providers are expected to meet the same requirements and standards outlined in the program requirements. And you must be responsible for directly coordinating with those subcontracted providers. Performance goals and outcomes. So, to track progress towards achieving the outcome goals of this program and assess success, we will be monitoring 3 annual outcome metrics that may include but are not limited to 50% of resolutions for clients assessing the SPARC will be shelter placement, diversion, or connection to other stable housing. Warming and cooling area will be activated 100% of the time when there's an emergency weather activation call, and SPARC will accept 100% of the walk-up referrals from outreach agencies to provide shelter placement support. And to monitor and recognize intermediate progress towards above performance indicators, we will also be tracking 75% of clients that uh, need to complete, 75% of clients that need shelter will complete a 311 shelter request. 100% of clients will receive basic services. So whether that's they're coming in for meals, for donations, or shower, the waiting area, and 75% of clients that indicate interest in diversion receive diversion assessments. Okay, so I won't be going over every single one of the bullet points, but these are going to be the criterias that we will be assessing the RFP. So the first section will be the community involvement. So we'll be looking for detailed evidence and examples that demonstrate an understanding of the defining characteristics of the population that you'll be serving. The respondent's leadership reflects and engages directly with the people, the community it serves. That respondents have a plan to recruit the necessary staff, and that respondents describe specific mechanisms by which feedback is incorporated into the service delivery. The next category is organizational capacity. So respondents should provide a full list of essential positions and personnel in the areas mentioned, tie those positions directly into the service delivery, and speak in detail about the hiring, the onboarding, the integration of new staff, and that you understand the need for staff with language proficiencies and have at least 50% of the staff be bilingual. The respondents will also be evaluated on having adequate system and processes to support the monitoring of the program, and being able to give a detailed account of how data will be collected, stored, entered, and monitored, as well as having a strategy and plans adapting the space during extreme weather. The next category is strength of proposed program. So we will be evaluating respondents' description of their program model in detail, and that it thoroughly ties specific elements of the program. to the core needs of the RFP and the target population. We'll evaluate specific examples of how you will incorporate the mentioned evidence and best practices for this program model. The direct connections are being made between the programming and all four continuum of care core values. That will evaluate how you speak to how you will identify client needs and plan for outside service referrals, how to engage clients, and details on the way in which partner agencies will participate in specific aspects of the program, and provide some examples of agencies where agreements already exist or are in the process. And finally, that respondents provide a proposed plan to ensure resident safety in the access point setting. So this includes an approach of addressing conflict or other crises and maintaining a safe environment. The next category is performance management and outcomes. So in this section, we will be evaluating that respondents demonstrate evidence of strong past performances against desired outcome goals and performance metrics, and other notable accomplishments in providing services to the target population. The respondent has experience using data to identify problems in service delivery and informing services and practices, and that respondents have relevant systems and processes needed to collect and store key participant and performance data. And the next section is a reasonable cost, the budget justification, and leverage of funds. So we'll be evaluating respondents have the fiscal capacity to implement the proposed program without advance payments for DFSS, that respondents can leverage other funds and in-kind contributions, and that respondents demonstrate reasonable implementation costs and funding requests given the nature of the program proposed. Okay, so some of the attachments that are needed for the application, you must submit a budget as part of the application that reflects the true estimated cost for operating this program. Respondents should be sure to include the following costs in their budget, along with other cost needs in the proposed program. So something to note is that the monthly lease for the current site is 280,000 a month for rent, utilities, and janitorial services. So keep that in mind as you're creating your budget. And we'll also need to know the cost of staffing, client meals, and diversion and out migration, client support, or any flexible funding needed for flights or bus tickets, groceries, things like that. Um, and we will also need an attachment of the subcontract services that will be included. We need to include a signed agreement or letters of support from all entities with whom you propose to subcontract. So yeah, there's some more information to propose, explaining the application, which program clients they plan to provide, and any services that are required to have a process in place to for you to monitor the subcontractors for compliance. The evaluation process. So we will evaluate on the strengths of the proposal and the responsiveness to the selection criteria. Failure to submit a complete proposal or respond fully to all requirements may make your submission subject to rejection. The commissioner, upon review of recommended agencies, may reject, deny, or recommend agencies that have applied for grants based on previous performance and/or area needs. And DFSS reserves the right to ensure that all mandated services are available citywide and provided in a linguistically and culturally appropriate manner. Okay, so with our timeline, today we're hosting the pre-proposal webinar. We will have a site visit on this Friday at 10 a.m. at the temporary SPARC location. If you're interested, please email me. My email is at the end of the RFP. We will start promptly at 10 a.m. The due date to submit pre-proposal questions will be Wednesday, April 16th, and the application is due at noon, Monday, May 5th. And the intended program period begins for the contract Tuesday, July 1st, 2025. We will have a transition period with the existing delegates, but that is until the start of the programming that the respondent will take over. Okay. Jillian, are you going to start with this section or should I keep going?
You should keep going. I'm gonna jump in at application tips.
Okay, great. Thank you. So the term of this contract for this RFP is July 1st, 2025 through December 31st of 2026. Based on needs, we may extend this term for up to 4 years, with each extension not to exceed 1 year. So an extension every year. The amount of the RFP for 1 year will be between 9,500,000 to, oh, I'm missing a zero, to 10,500,000 a year. Administrative costs will be capped at 15% of or agency's federally approved indirect rate, if applicable to this application. And we're asking you to submit for 1 year, 12 months of service. Be thoughtful and inclusive when developing your budget. Apply for your program's actual costs. We generally cannot give you more money than what you ask. So use a reasonable cost question on the application to discuss how you will determine the cost reflected in the budget. I think I read a little note that you just want to make sure you're asking for the right amount, don't underestimate, and just make sure that, the costs are going to be as true as possible. Okay, so some common errors that we see in budgets or cost proposals are fringes. So check your calculations. Supplies, these are frequently under or over budgeted for. Client assistance, if this is an appropriate and allowable cost, don't forget to include it. Make sure your job description titles and your job description uploads have the same titles. Also, add a brief description of the job into the budget document itself if you have not discussed it specifically in your application, and put your budget in the appropriate columns. You'll also want to show your match if there is one available. Okay, so I mentioned before, the deadline is strict at 12 p.m. noon, Monday, May 5th, 2025. We are not granting any extensions. It closes right on the dot. We are not allowed to reopen it.
Thank you, Fabiola. At this time, we're gonna pause for questions. I do see that we have 3 questions. The first question is, as the lease for the city's central shelter is currently being renewed, can the city clarify its expectations regarding the role of partner organizations in determining a future location for the central shelter?
I can chime in on this one. So the city is sort of currently looking for new potential locations. I think it would be great to have input from the selected provider. It will sort of depend on the timing of when we are able to award a provider through this RFP and the sort of status of the search.
Okay, and they have 3 sub-questions. So the first sub-question is, will organizations have the opportunity to provide insight or input into the site selection or development of a new central shelter location?
Yeah, I would give the same answer to that question.
Okay. Second question, are organizations permitted to use awarded funds as a form of capital advance to support the build out or development of infrastructure for a new location?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm going to punt that to the written amendment so that we can make sure we're giving an accurate response there.
Okay. And their third sub-question is, could the city please provide a copy of the city's financial advance payment policy, particularly as it relates to advance requests as referenced in the RFP?
Yes, definitely. So we can include that in a amendment. And then I guess one other thing I'll say on advances is, so the RFP does include language that advances for costs will be considered according to the city's advance payment policy. And it will ask if you're interested in exercising that option. At this point, we cannot guarantee that we'll be able to provide advances through this RFP. We're sort of pursuing this option within the city. And so we're interested to understand interest from applicants for advances.
Okay. And next question, Does grantee have a voice in a permanent space? Does the 280,000 include janitorial per RFP, or does grantee incur the expense?
Yes, I think so. For the first question, sort of same responses as I gave previously. For the 280,000, for the location, that does include some janitorial. We can include more detail in a written amendment.
Can janitorial and security services be outsourced?
They can be subcontracted. So as Fabiola sort of shared, this application is open for sort of one provider to apply, but that is able to sort of subcontract for any of the sort of program requirements as outlined in the RFP.
Okay. Next question is a match required?
We do not have a match requirement for this RFP. One of the evaluation criteria is how the applicant is able to sort of leverage other funds, but we do not have a minimum requirement match.
Okay. And next question, will the organization selected be required to secure zoning on the site selected?
Yeah, that's a good question. And so this will depend a bit on the sort of final site selection and whether it needs to go through zoning. If it does, that would need to be something that the organization and the city will sort of go through together.
Thank you. And then the last question is, has the city shared any stats around the number of people being served in the SPARC?
That's a great question. I'm gonna punt that to Fabiola if you want to share. Well, actually, I can pull up top line numbers if you want to answer the second question on genders served at the SPARC.
Yes, all genders are served. It's expected to have designated like female and male sleeping areas for overnight, but we work with everyone, all genders.
Okay, thank you. That's all the questions we have at this time. We will pause one last time for questions after the e-procurement section. So we're going to start with application tips. We strongly advise all respondents to start their applications as early as possible and save it as often as possible. And if you have never done business with the City of Chicago, please register into iSupplier, also known as e-procurement, as soon as possible. Please review RFP narratives and application questions closely, and remember that they align with the scope and selection criteria. Use the information in the RFP for guidance in formulating your answers. There is a 4,000 character limit, which includes punctuation and spaces. Each response is allotted 4,000 characters. Please do not use the back button on your browser. You could potentially lose your work. And again, we strongly advise applicants to start your applications as early as possible and save it as often as possible. A couple tips for working in e-procurement. To submit multiple applications for a single RFP, applicants will need to set up a unique user account in iSupplier. The e-procurement system is not capable of submitting more than one distinct proposal per associated email address. Therefore, you must use a separate email address for each submission. You can submit your application and later amend it up until the due date of Monday, May 5th, 2025 at 12 noon sharp. Avoid the rush and possible mishaps by submitting early, and plan on your submission taking approximately 30 to 60 minutes. Please be advised that late applications cannot be accepted. At 12, the system will shut down and close out. So please try to get your submission in before 12 noon on May 5th. Make use of the e-procurement hotline for help at 312-744-4357. Please make note that the hotline operates during business hours only, which is Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. A few agency requirements. We provide agencies to provide articles of incorporation or any amended articles of incorporation. We also require an IRS affirmation letter. This is for not-for-profit agencies only. This letter must be dated within 60 days of submission. You can obtain this by calling the IRS directly at 1-877-829-5500. If you are a for-profit agency, submit your original letter from the IRS showing your FEIN number. We also require a UEI number in addition to the central contractor registration, which can be obtained from the sam.gov website. Please provide a copy of the entity overview page. And lastly, a certificate of good standing letter with the state of Illinois is required. As of April of last year, we have a labor peace agreement ordinance that is now required, which will apply to all DFSS and CDPH delegates that have 20 or more employees working for their organization. This does not apply to hospitals. Contractors must provide written notice to the commissioner or her designee within 72 hours of becoming aware that employees want to organize or that a union seeks to represent employees. Contractor must enter into an LPA within 90 days of receiving notice that a labor organization seeks to represent employees. You may ask, what is an LPA? A labor peace agreement is an agreement between an employer and a labor union that ensures that an organizing drive is not impacted by union busting techniques, including employee retaliation, and in return, they will not strike or stop work in a way that will impact human services. For technical assistance on the DFSS webpage is a link to the RFP of interest and training documents. Please see alerts section on our website. For questions on registration and e-procurement, please contact customer support at cityofchicago.org, and they can also be reached by phone at 312-744-4357. We also have training materials online, which includes documents and videos. Please visit cityofchicago.org under iSupplier and under online training materials. At this time, we're going to delve into how to enter your responses and accepting amendments in iSupplier. Step 1, select Create Quote from the drop-down menu in the Actions box and then click on Go. This will take you to the application page where you can get started. If the RFP you are interested in has been amended, and in this case, this one will have an amendment, you will need to acknowledge that amendment and accept it to start and submit your actual response. To accept the amendment, click on View Amendment History. To begin the acceptance and acknowledgement process, follow these steps after clicking View Amendment History. First, you click on the document number. Next, you click on the infinity or eyeglass icon to review the amended changes to the RFP. And lastly, you click on Acknowledge Amendments button to acknowledge receipt and understanding of the changes to proceed. And by acknowledging the amendment, you are indicating that you are aware of the changes made to the RFP in the amendment. When you see this screen, you click on the I accept checkbox, and then you click on Acknowledge. Then click on Yes to indicate that you confirm your acknowledgement of the amendment. Finally, you click on the checkbox that you accept terms and conditions, and then you click Accept to accept the terms and conditions. And that is the final step in acknowledging and accepting the amendment. Once you accept the amendment, you can move forward with submitting your application. So when you are ready to submit, meaning that you have answered every question, that you have attached every required document, you can start by saving your draft one last time and then clicking Continue. When you click continue, and if you are missing information, you will be given an error message at the top of the page. It's usually in red. And this error message circled here directs to something left undone in the application. So they're saying that the error message is indicating that the lines had not been completed. In this example, the error is about an unanswered question or a missing answer. Once you complete your application and it's free from errors, you are then ready to proceed and submit. And at this point, clicking continue should put your application into the review and submit phase. The review and submit phase gives you a chance to review all of your data and to confirm that all is accurate. Please double check your attachments and all of your responses and scroll to the bottom of the screen. Once you get to the bottom of the screen, you will be asked to provide an electronic signature. Please be sure to fill in the signature before checking the box. And lastly, you can click submit to submit your application. Once you submit your application, you will receive a submission confirmation from e-procurement. It will be sent within 24 hours of your submission. However, you can call me or email me if you desire a confirmation prior to receiving your email. At this time, we're going to pause for more questions. And I do see that we have one. It says, the IRS has been exceptionally slow at responding to affirmation letter requests. What can we do if we request a letter and the IRS does not respond in time? So for affirmation letters, we do have time to submit it. It has to be submitted within 60 days of your submission. So I'm hoping that IRS you can obtain your affirmation letter within that 60-day timeline. Any other questions? If we don't have any other questions, we still have time to send your questions. I believe the question deadline is Wednesday, April 16th. We have a secondary question. So there is no flexibility here on the part of the city. The IRS has been gutted by the federal government. We can provide more information on that in the amendment, but at this time, as far as I know, we do have a 60-day requirement. But again, we can provide more information within the amendment for that. If there are no other questions, any further questions regarding the program can be sent to Fabiola Arvizu. Her information is listed here, fabiola.arvizu@cityofchicago.org. And any non-programmatic questions, any questions regarding e-procurement, if you're having any issues, you can send those to the e-procurement hotline at 312-744-4357. And you can also send those questions to customer support@cityofchicago.org. And you can also send them to me as well. My name is Jillian Black, and my email is jillian.black@cityofchicago.org. And before we wrap up, does the homeless division have anything to add?
Yes, thank you. I just want to touch base again on the site visit for this Friday at 10 a.m. Please just send me an email if you plan to attend so I have an idea of who to expect. And there is parking across the street. There's also a parking lot in the back. There's usually plenty of parking spots there, but do come in through the front of the building. So if you park in the back, walk through the alleyway up to the front. It can be a little tough to find the door, but all the doors facing Halstead will either say the entrance is this way and point towards the door, and the main entrance itself is marked as SPARC main entrance. Please expect to go through security and sign in, and we will begin promptly at 10 a.m. But if you have any more questions, please just email me. I'll confirm that address with you when I respond back. But it's 2241 South Halsted.
Thank you, Fabiola. Again, the question deadline is Wednesday, April 16th, 2025. Good luck, everyone, on your applications, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.